everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's CIO Gurukul session, yet another insightful episode. And today we are going to focus on a digital transformation playbook for manufacturers. That's the title of today's session. We presented by CIO&Leader in collaboration with, in association with 9.9 Group. Hello everyone, my name is Jatinder Singh. I'm the executive editor of CIO&Leader magazine and delighted to be your host for today's session. Uh, well, thank you once again for joining in. Well, we all know that in this era of rapid digital evolution, industries are undergoing unprecedented transformation, and the manufacturing sector, of course, is no exception at all. The success of manufacturers is now intricately tied to their ability to harness the full potential of technology, data, and innovation. Uh, we all have been witnessing how manufacturers today are confronted with both extraordinary challenges and of course opportunities with the kind of technologies that are emerging, and we are witnessing that they understand that they must navigate the intricacies of industry 4.0, the internet of things, big data, artificial intelligence, of course, and of course several new technologies. Today's session promises a deep dive into the best practices of IT strategy, data transformation, and the effective utilization of these emerging technologies in the manufacturing landscape. Today's session aims to unfold the playbook for data transformation in manufacturing, underlining the pivotal role of IT as a strategic asset, of course. We are honored to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's session, Mr. Atanu Pramanic, an industry veteran with a wealth of experience and expertise. He doesn't need introduction, of course, but as the CEO and VP IT at RPSG Ventures Limited, Atanu has an impressive track record of driving IT and digital transformation for power utilities and other group companies. His insights today will guide us through the strategies and tactics that are shaping the future of manufacturing. With a rich professional background, Atanu previously held key technology leadership positions at renowned organizations such as Hindalco, L&T, and Genpact, of course. He is an alumni of prestigious IIM Calcutta. Atanu is widely recognized for his high performance capabilities and is driving force behind IT and data transformation initiatives in the companies he has worked for. He excels in leveraging cutting edge technologies such as IoT, RFID, machine learning, RPA, robotic process automation, digital twin, blockchain, AR, VR, BI analytics, and of course, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud solution to streamline operations and drive business innovation. During today's session, Atanu will delve into the nuances of adopting new technologies, optimizing operations, and ensuring data security and business continuity in the manufacturing sector. Before I formally welcome Atanu, please, I just want to share that you please don't hesitate to share any questions that you have for our speaker today. We'll address these questions during the Q&A session at the end of our webinar. Well, without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to Atanu Pramanik, who will share his invaluable expertise on a data transformation playbook for manufacturers. We extend our sincere thanks to Atanu for joining us and offer a very welcome to you. Hello, sir. Once again, a very welcome to you.
Yatinder, thank you so much for inviting me and feeling privileged to be here with all of you and looking forward to the engaging session and the questions that might come from the audience. Thank you, Jatin, and thank you, CIM leaders.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much again for joining in. So, sir, to commence our discussion, let's begin with a crucial question that is on the top of mind of IT leaders today. With so much happening in data transformation and, of course, technologies that we discussed earlier and briefly touched upon in the morning today as well. So, what are the recent data transformation trends that you foresee in the manufacturing industry, and from an IT leader's perspective, how should they make an informed IT strategies to leverage these trends in an effective manner?
Right, Jatin. So that's a very, very pertinent question. But probably I would like to start a bit off front, before directly jumping onto the strategy or the trends. Basically, if I go back in my own experience, the digital transformation in the manufacturing, come industrial, come construction industry had started in India somewhere around 2014, 2015, right? But as we all know, the same had started in the insurance, financial, pharmaceuticals, healthcare industry a bit earlier. Maybe a slightly banking, probably a bit earlier, around 5, 7 years back, but insurance and pharma and all, maybe around 2, 3 years back, prior to 2013, 2014, 2015. I myself was lucky to be part of L&T and one of the pioneering members to initiate digitalization for L&T as a behemoth, as you all know. Um, why do we do digital transformation? What are the business imperatives? What are the kind of the business challenges or problem statement that we intend to resolve by doing a digital transformation or a digitization or an automation, whatever you call it, right? The industries over the years would have gone through different phases of cycles from the automation and I would say industrialization perspective. There were industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and we probably are somewhere towards the end of 4.0. We're already talking of 5.0, right? Now, why we do all these things? Primarily, a few of them is basically resiliency in the manufacturing or the production line. Obviously, resiliency would include a consistent quality output. Definitely, you will like to improve upon the productivity or efficiency of your production line. Every organization would have a very, very close look about on the operating cost. And nonetheless, you will definitely try to quote unquote predict your failures. You would like to be resilient at the highest level, but you would also like to know that at what point in time I might fail. That is predictive maintenance, right? You need to know also the assets capability and asset scalability. These are the few primary points why today's organizations, specifically manufacturing organizations, industrial construction organizations, would like to involve and spend money, time, effort, skills, technology into digitalization, right? When you talk about trends, let me say that, and you rightly probably added all possible technologies while introducing me. uh, RPA, IoT, AIML, AR, VR, your all kinds of analytics, blockchain, digital twin, anything and everything is available today on the Indian soil as technology. The partners are getting more and more skilled. There are more and more startups coming in into these niche technical areas, right? When I personally started the digitalization journey with L&T in 2015, we had ideas of how things can happen. The technology was just about coming into the subcontinent of India. The partners were just getting trained and upskilling themselves to kind of implement those technologies, right? That was pretty difficult time for us to fast track any digitalization effort. We did not have even 90% of the machineries enabled with the sensors, which will give you IoT data to capture the data and kind of massage and get some analytics out of it. We had to retrofit telemetry on most of those devices. Because any legacy manufacturing organization, even today, after 7, 8, 10 years later, would be continuing with machines which are 30, 40, 50 years old. So to expect that the machines will have latest telemetry, latest sensors on all of them is probably too much, right? Some of the machines are coming today, let's say post 2018, 2019, 2020, when the kind of the buzzword of digitalization has kind of caught up with every industry, including manufacturing. The machine manufacturing companies, the OEMs, have started building their own IoT platforms. Most of the big ones like Siemens, ABB, Schneider, Mitsubishi, all the major kind of machinery manufacturing entities have started building their own IoT platforms. And they have kind of started mandating collecting all the machine data into their platform, and that became part of their warranty and the contract that they were doing with the customers, right? Going forward, I think again, taking cue from where I started, is very important for us to understand the business imperative. Why would you deploy a technology? Today, metaverse has also come in. Today, we are talking of generative AI, all kinds of AI ML. Generative probably is at the top end. There are multiple different kinds of artificial intelligence are coming in, right? Cognitive intelligence and all those things. But again, it is becoming very important for us to first identify and analyze the business case. It may or may not be necessarily a ROI game always, but it has to be very clear that what business problem or what business case you are going to resolve by deploying that technology. Otherwise, we have seen many cases where the technology had been implemented at its nascent stage and it had failed. So, the another aspect that we look into in these areas is fail first. You start with a big overarching architecture, but initiate a small portion of that and see if that works. And it is always good to get or take baby steps towards the perfection in these kind of new technology areas, because technology is changing very fast. Every day we see many things are coming up. Even within generative AI, we have seen so many changes happening in last, let's say, 6 to 8 to 10 months, right? So that's where I would say that the progression of the technology, the business imperatives and the business challenges will have to marry each other at a very early stage. The trends more into getting into the AI and ML is how we can utilize again the data in a much more advanced form than we were using it even 2 years back, which was barely and merely a predictive analytics, right? Prescriptive and then predictive. The generative AI in today's world, and I saw in a few months back, there was a art competition in, I think, France or Italy. I forgot, one of those countries in Europe. And one entry was purposefully given or taken or kind of accepted, whose owner was a generative AI tool, not a human being. A simple painting art. And many of you would know if you just Google that the competition was won by that generative AI tool, not by simple imagination, but by pure, I would say, the quality of the image that it created. Right? So the buzzword today is, or the buzz statement is today is, you need not be worrying about generative AI. you should worry about the person who is using generative AI, right? So it is about how you use the technology. It is about how you marry the technology with the business case that you have.
Absolutely, sir. I think you raised a very pertinent point, and thanks for giving a detailed overview of why manufacturers need specific technologies. And you are you raised a very pertinent point that more than the technology itself, people who are leveraging the technology at the forefront of using these technologies, we need to be cautious about that. Whether they are trained enough, whether they know the art of using those technologies, and that of course we would definitely hear more from you on that. So you mentioned that some manufacturers of course need to align their IT strategies with broader business objectives, throughout the digital transformation process. Could you share some of the best practices, while of course we understand that this is critical, and would you be able to share some thought process around that, and how to achieve that in a successful manner?
Yes, Jatin. So let me take a couple of examples where I had worked in the past using some of these technologies. Uh, let's say we had a situation where we were controlling a very, very corrosive liquid, and a very, very highly acidic, highly corrosive liquid. And we did not have permission to store in the plant. And that was the nature of the liquid. It's a byproduct. And we had to containerize that, and the containers will immediately leave the plant premises as and when they get filled up. So the pipe will connect to the hopper. The hopper will directly feed into the containers, the tankers, and when it is filled, it will directly move out of the plant. And that process will continue 24 hours, kind of 30 days a month and 365 days a year, right? Now, how to feed those hoppers or those lines was done through very, very specific high alloy pumps. Those were obviously imported from Europe, very, very costly. And this process was going very well for last 20 years, if not more. And we had 2+1, two lines live and one pump on standby. Now, what was happening, over the years, the very specific guidance from the manufacturers was these pumps, the nature of the liquid that they handle, would need to be changed, literally changed, replaced before 365 days. It was a mandate that if we go beyond 12 months, that is 365 days, the OEM will not honor any warranty of those pumps, and any mishap, any accident, because we are kind of working with highly corrosive liquid, they have to be changed by 12th month, that is 365 days is the outlying limit. And it was happening for last 18 to 20 years, no questions asked. Now what we did, took upon ourselves, is we just wanted, and the data was all captured, the moment the pump was replaced on the, let's say, 10-15 days prior to the year end, let's say the changing work or the dismantling of that pump will start on 350th day, and it will take 10-15 days to change it, realign, whatever. All the physical and metallurgical data was tested and captured in records for the last 20 years. So we digitized that data and put in a mathematical model. We just wanted to kind of compare and analyze that what was the manufacturer's prescribed physical metallurgical properties that the pump should have when it is new or when it is within the acceptable limits within 12 months, and what was the physical and the metallurgical data, the parameters, when the pump was taken off the line, right? And we started mapping the divergence of the data. Let's say the pump thickness should have been 28.8 millimeters at the beginning, And after 11 months, 15 days, 11 months, 20 days, the pump thickness was measured to be at 25 millimeters, 25.5 millimeters. Due to erosion, 3 millimeters went out. But the acceptable parameter could be 20 millimeter or 22 millimeter. So actually and logically, the pump would have been used for 3 more millimeters of thickness erosion, right? But we just went by the Bible and we just changed the pump on the before the 12th month got over. Now what we did is we did a mathematical model using that data, and we wanted to arrive at the optimum time that the pump can be used without violating the running principle of given by the OEM. So basically, to extrapolate what time will it take to reduce from the 25.5 millimeter down to 22 millimeter, what was the outlying limit given by the OEM to run the pump successfully. And we saw that it is somewhere between 17 to 18 months, not 12 months, right? So we tried multiple models, and every time the model was giving that data, consistent data that the pumps can be driven or used till 17 to 18 months. So we approached our operating leadership and we showed that data. And as expected, as obvious, they just turned us down. We waited for another 6 months. We took one more downtime of one more pump, the third pump. We added that latest data. It again gave that same 17 to 18 months is the lifetime of the pump. These pumps were highly costly pumps. Okay. So if we could enhance the life of the pump by even 1 month, it will give me 10% extra productivity in addition to the lower downtime and additional cost benefit, right? So ultimately, cutting the story short, we used to take roughly around a year or so with multiple presentations to convince the leadership that, okay, let us have for the next pump in the line 1 month, not 6 months, not 12 to 18, from 12 to 13 months only. Let's take that risk and extend that, and we will continuously monitor the working parameters, operating parameters of the efficiency of the pump. And we removed the or refreshed the next pump on the 13th month. After one more year, when the next pump came on the timeline to be replaced, we put them for 14 months. And now all the pumps are getting replaced after 15 months. So net 25% is the efficiency that is derived out of this simple mathematical analytical model. 12 months came to 14 months. So 3 months out of 12 is 25% cost benefit, lesser downtime, higher productivity, and higher utilization of the product. This is a live example that I can tell that where the technology was used very wisely and effectively, using the data and giving the business huge benefit back.
Yeah, of course. Right data strategy and the tools that you use to analyze the behavioral pattern, of course, that helped that. It was a great example, and I'm sure the audience would love to hear more such examples. So you talked about the training and, of course, the workforce, which is which plays an extremely critical role in driving digital transformation. And like you said, that it's basically the people who are behind the technology that we should be more cautious about it rather than the technology itself. In the given scenario, when organizations are, trying to address the challenges of sourcing and training workforce, especially for successful data transformation initiatives in the manufacturing sector, and with the integration of AI, ML, and generative AI technologies, which you talked about, what are the practical strategies or examples that can be proven effective to have a strong workforce pipeline to manage these wonderful technologies?
Great, Jatin. I think this is one of the really important, I would say, question in everyone's mind while anyone is introducing new technology in their direct, I would say, production line. It is probably much easier to implement the project, but much difficult to sustain it going forward. And then once Roger Federer told that being number one is much easier than sustaining it for 5 years, which I think he did to a very close. I don't remember, but he was more than number one. I mean, at number one, he was more than 4.5 years, right? So it's a very similar case here that you can introduce a new technology much easier, but to maintain that and to take it forward and to build on that is much difficult. So we had a couple of, I would say, strategies or means that we deployed earlier. Is number one, to use these technologies, only IT team or technology team can't succeed. You have to take your business along with you. That's number one, right? Actually, business should drive digital transformation, and IT or technology team should support it, right? That's the ideal case. So what we did is we had whenever we contracted with the technology partners or the small startups, the training of the tool, core training, end-to-end training, in-depth training was always part of our contract. So it is not just implementation, they had to give mandatorily the end-to-end training of the technology as well as the tool. That is number one. Number two, we created an overall program for a group of people which we introduced in the organization, that they will be trained on some basic technologies like Python. Like, if you have data and if you know a bit of R or Python and you understand some principles like time series and all, it will be not that difficult to do those analytics given you have the data sets. But if you don't have people within your organization who understands business and who understands the principle of time series or variation, deviation, and all those simple mathematical principles, statistical principles, it will be kind of a very difficult to sustain a model going forward. You will have to be highly dependent on your partners. The partners also will lose their people. You will lose your people because they will not understand what is happening. And it will be a kind of a deadlock that you implemented something spending a huge amount of money and you are not able to take it to the next level. So we created a pool of people who had been in the organization for 10, 12, 15 years, gave them training, categorized them, and motivated them to get more and more involved in it by categorizing them as starters, beginners, kind of different levels, and going up to proficient levels, right? Expert and proficient levels. So they had incentives to get trained. They were promoted and incentivized from the financial perspective based on their input in the projects, their consistency, and their kind of continuity in the project. And that's how we created a pool of human resources within the organization. More so when these new technologies are coming in. Let's say, for example, generative AI, Chat GPT. I think many of us would be using by simply creating a email on a specific topic today, right? That is as similar to using a banking app or a Amazon e-commerce app or something like that on your personal mobile phone. When you are using the technology on for your personal use on your personal mobile phone, somehow God gives you that intelligence to use it by your own. No one needs to train you. But the same or similar thing when it comes to corporate world, he will say, "Sir, मुझे training चाहिए," right? And you will not even would like to take one step ahead without being formally trained. So that's a mindset that we'll have to kill. When you can use icicibank.com by yourself, when you can kind of navigate and work and buy things by your own on amazon.com, why not you can get into AI and ML and AR and VR tools by navigating and doing yourself? So it's a dichotomy. It's a very useful challenge. I mean, interesting challenge, I would say. But this challenge has to be nipped in the bud so that the team inside is motivated and start getting trained whenever there is an opportunity and take the mantle forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. And yeah, you mentioned about Roger Federer. Yeah, he's in fact one of my favorite players, and of course, He remained number one for, I think, close to four 400 weeks, if I remember, between 350 to 400 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was,
That's 8 years close to.
yeah, yeah. So that was massive. So, so with especially if we talk about the cyber attacks, which with so much data being generated and technologies like IoT and connectivity wise 5G, 6G, we are talking about. There's also a frequency of cyber attacks which is quite alarming, and we are hearing threats every day, causing massive disruption in the operations of businesses. So, what are some of the best practices that manufacturers should ensure while creating any kind of technology models to safeguard their systems and prevent potential production interruptions? If you could share some examples, that would be helpful.
Yes, Jatin, and again, a very, very important question in today's world, cybersecurity, and more so when you are a part of a manufacturing organization, right? In some of the other industries like banking or insurance or healthcare, you not necessarily manage machineries, that is quote unquote OT, operating technology, right? But in manufacturing, you have to deal with different protocols and different kinds of machineries, which will have its own challenges from more than one angle. Again, going by the legacy of the organization, you would have bought a machine 20 years back. The protocols were very pertinent at that point in time, but they were never upgraded to the current status, current world, right? So you have to basically fight a kind of a advanced mix 16 with maybe our old age HAL helicopter. All right. So what do we do in terms of strategy? That is where you have to probably try and look at it. That earlier it was very highly air gap, IT to OT, even 10 years back, 7, 8 years back, IT to OT. But now that you rightly mentioned, when you are trying to draw so much of data, and data is the core of every analysis and every single solution going forward, you cannot keep IT and OT air gap. Somewhere you have to make it interoperable, you have to connect it so that the data can move from this side to that side. There are multiple ways to do that. There are companies who are doing it very successfully. I'm not questioning or not commenting on that whether they were ever hacked or ever compromised, because that's a very difficult question to answer. No one in the world can say that I am 100% kind of immune to any cyber vulnerability, right? I think no one can say. And even kind of in the recent past, any and every organizations, including NASA, New York Stock Exchange, World Bank, IMF, every single company got somewhere or the other compromised, right? So while not getting into that point whether a organization got compromised or hacked, what you can do is you can use some strategies, very specific strategies, to make your data unidirectional when you are putting data across IT and OT, right? That is one of the minimum thing that you can always do, because in OT you can not even update your patches on time, operating patches, software patches. You can't do that even because your OEM vendors will not allow you to do that. They are always 5 years, 7 years, 10 years behind you, right? So with all those, and more than that, your own operating leadership will not allow any stoppage in the production environment of OT, so that you will deploy a patch, you will put in a something which will take 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour of your production time, right? That is also not allowed. Very, very seldom you will have a test environment in OT. You are really, really lucky. You are really, really privileged if you have a test environment in OT. It is like operating on a running train, operating on a running car, right? So, with all these there for managing OT, you have to be very careful that your data input and output data doesn't get mixed up. You definitely should have, I'm again using the word very carefully, should have a different network for IT and different network for OT. You should not allow any open vulnerabilities and open protocols which are known to be exploited and had been exploited. So you have to be on your toes to keep your tools which are supporting the OT side, even YOT side on the IT side, on the latest platform, the security and the cyber tools, because you are covering up something which is much more vulnerable behind that wall. Your actual machineries, actual SCADA, DCS, PLCs, everything will be 10 years older, right? So to cover that weakness, you have to be very strong on the outside. The wall, be it your next generation firewall, be it any other, I would say, uh, tool at the endpoint, something like EDR or MDR or XDR, what we call it, all these would be at the highest level of patch set, at the highest level of, I would say, efficiency and monitoring. Even in the security operating center that we talk about, the SOC, there are few people today, some vendors are talking about having an unified SOC for IT and OT. But to my knowledge, to my experience, I've never seen a single SOC working in the industry. It is still a theory. So even your security operating center would have to be different for IT and OT.
Well, that's a very interesting observation. We have a question from audience. Probably, sir, if you would like to take Mr. Mahesh, he's checking what metrics and KPIs are valuable for gauging the impact of digital transformation. And what would you recommend, probably the best strategies to recommend these, linking these investment to future profitability and how to communicate that importance to stakeholders?
Great question. Great question. First, I would like to state that, again, in my experience, I have had worked under great leadership, senior MDs, CEOs in my past. So I had been privileged enough to start my first digitalization without any monetary benefit tied with it. We were first asked to start the digitalization to prove that technology works on a kind of a legacy environment and to make our hands dirty so that we understand how technology works on legacy systems. And that should be the beginning for any organization getting into, specifically manufacturing organization, dealing with legacy machineries, starting to implement technology. If the first day, if you push your team, give you ROI and IRR and benefits, hard luck, right? Because not all technologies will suit all kinds of machineries and your backend operating systems, right? The other thing that I can give a quick example. There was a customer contact center of one of the companies. A feedback was expected to be taken from the customers. Now there were customer tickets, customer service tickets were lodged, and the internal team will look into those tickets, resolve them, and call them back for their feedback. How did they resolve it? Whether they were happy and or not. So there were certain tools that were supposed to be introduced to create a kind of a analysis about the customer behavior and customer expectation out of those tickets, the languages used in the tickets, the feedbacks given by the customers, the ratings given by the customers. So we were doing it earlier more or less in a manual mode. But when we tried to introduce a AI based model, the number of dissatisfied customers started getting higher. And we tried to see what was the gap, one of the major gaps that we kind of found out, that let's say this is the Diwali season, and you are buying things from Amazon or Flipkart, right? $1 billion day or whatever these guys are promoting, and all the your delivery partners, e-com partners, will eventually be delayed on delivering your material from the date that the sites are committing, because of the load that they will have, right? Whatever best kind of projection and the planning that they're giving. Now, let's say there was a kind of a technical fault in one of those partners, and there were huge number of tickets logged for that. The deliveries are not happening. And this model, when we applied on that, this is, I'm talking of 3 or 4 years old data. When we applied some AI based logic and model on that, the model clubbed 90 out of 100 tickets into one category and closed all the tickets. That this is for the same reason of that technical problem with that delivery vendor, and all the tickets will be closed when that problem is resolved. But actually, not many, around 7 or 8 within that group had different problems. Though their materials were not delivered, they had different problems. So, what happened? The AI model clubbed all 90 under one category and closed all. But out of those 90 tickets, some 7 or 8 of them got delayed delivery, but their problems were different. And the AI model could not capture it. And ultimately, we had to scrap that model. And we are still hunting for a better model to use in this scenario. So, why I'm telling it this is this, that not every use case can be implemented using the same tool. You might be successful using the same model, but I may not be, because my use case might be 10% different from yours. So again, what I told in the earlier question, it is very important that number one, it's good that to start with, no numbers are attached to any digital transformation initiative. Let the company get used to the technology and the digital business, the way of doing business. Okay, that's a mindset change, that's a cultural change. Some time should be given to the technology as well as the business team to get used to the digital way of doing business. Obviously, ultimately, you do business, so monetary terms will be attached to it. That is the first one, I would say. Second one is very, very consciously and very, very cautiously use your technology on any use case. It might appear that you have done it in the earlier case using one technology, but for the next case, that may not work. Right? There are certain pretty standard and simple ways that you can resolve it, but tricky ones are the candidates which will give you headaches and kind of you have to burn midnight oils.
Absolutely. Evaluating what works for you and what works for others. What may have worked for others may not work for you, and what may have worked for a specific process may not work for the other process. Thank you, sir. There is another question from Mr. Basabalingam D. In your opinion on running your business by the partners or by your own internal team, where do you draw the line? Could you please share your insights?
Thanks, Basavalingam, for the question. This is a very, very standard challenge that we are facing. On one side, where the technology is changing so fast, it's very difficult to have your internal team cope up with that, right? When you are training your team on a blockchain, maybe digital twin has come in. When you are training them on the digital twin technology, the chat GPT has already come in. Now, when you are trying to grasp the basic principles of large language models, I don't know what will come next. So, very simply, it is very difficult for an internal organization to internalize these technologies on day one. The way we are doing it is we are trying to categorize it minimum to minimum two different boxes or buckets, if not more than that, to identify and understand that which are the technologies those are going to stay with us, namely IoT. IoT functionalities, IoT, I would say the precision, IoT, I would say the sensors will improve, but the principle of IoT is probably, excuse me, is probably going to stay. So I would probably have a couple of my guys understand the IoT technology, the platform. If I am a big enough organization, I would possibly even try to build IoT platform, which I know a couple of big corporate houses in India are almost done in building their own IoT platform. If you are so big, you better do it, because IoT is something that is there to stay as a technology. The principle of pulling in operating sensor data into your platform and analyzing that for your either online benefit or your offline improvement of the process is going to stay there. But if you ask me that, do I need to train my people and internalize, let's say, a blockchain or digital twin, or just to name, let's say, chat GPT or generative AI, at this moment, it is too immature. You don't know that how many versions more of chat GPT is going to come in next 6 months, right? So how would you keep pace with that? In these areas, it is better to call upon your trusted partners and take their help to implement technology. At the same time, I would say that even if you are not training your internal team, it is always beneficial to be aligned as a mixed and one team when your partner is implementing any new technology. You just don't close your eye and wait for the implementation to happen, but be involved on a day-to-day basis with the partner so as to pick up as much as you can. There is no limit on getting and gathering and a kind of garnering knowledge, right? And that's what I would say.
Yeah, of course, sharing knowledge is again critical. So, with probably if you could elaborate, I think one of the biggest things in my interactions with most of the technology leaders is the focus is on change management. With cultural shift you talk about, with a lot of new technologies are coming, how to be ready to cope up with that and cope up with the challenges. So, from change management perspectives, could you highlight some of the best practices that IT leaders should be ready with?
Absolutely, Jiten. First and foremost, what you have to do, as I mentioned earlier, that logically and principally, the digital projects, digitalization, transformation projects should be driven by business, first of all, to start with. And the other one is normally what we have done and what we are still doing is create cross-functional team without fail, create cross-functional team to run any digitalization project. You cannot run technology by technologists to be successful in a digital transformation project. You have to involve your business core functional team who has understanding of the process, who understands probably a bit of technology, tech savvy, what you can say. And that's what is one of the ways to kind of take it forward. The let's say I go back 20 25 years back when the ERPs of the world were really booming, right? And in today's world also, go back and see whenever and wherever any ERP project failed, it didn't fail for technology. It failed for lack of adoption, lack of change management. So technology by itself seldom fails. The reason being, within the technology, simple logic is 2 plus 2 is 4. If you have programmed that, it can never give you 4.1 or 5. But if you are not involving your workforce, your business team, then they would not know how to make 2 plus 2 4 within the tool. They will try to make it in the parallel run outside the tool, and that will fail the project. While you have programmed within the tool to make 2 plus 2 4, they will continue to use their manual piece of paper and make 2 plus 2 4. That's where you fail more often than not. So taking the business people as part of your core team, working together, is the core to success of digital transformation.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And cross-functional collaboration. I remember, in fact, when I was working for a very large firm earlier, and there was a lot of talk about RPA. And despite being ahead at that time, there was lack of cross-cultural communication and collaboration, due to which many projects took much longer than expected because of a lack of clear change management strategy. Uh, with that, I would just like to thank you, sir, once again for being with us. I think it was wonderful having you, and thank you for taking the time and effort for your valuable expertise, knowledge, and insights. We have few more questions, but due to paucity of time, we would love to take those questions forward separately with Tanuji, and will help you provide answers. My thanks to all delegates also who attended this session, posted questions and comments. We hope that you found the webinar interesting and informative. Please feel free to share your feedback and comments, so that we can organize more such sessions and come up with really thought-provoking topics. Uh, we look forward to seeing everyone once again, and with that, I would once again like to thank you, Tanuji, for being here, and thanks for your time and sharing some great insights with the audience today.
Thank you, Jatin. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you very much. Thank you. It's goodbye from CRD.